Tistou of the Green Thumbs by Maurice Druon. Chapter 9, in which the experts can discover nothing, but in which Tistou makes a discovery. Grown-ups have an extraordinary mania for trying to explain the inexplicable. Whenever anything rather surprising happens, they get fidgety. If something new happens in the world, they become determined to prove that this new thing resembles something they know about already. Should a volcano become quietly extinct, like the butt end of a cigarette, a dozen bespectacled experts have to go peering, listening, and sniffing about the crater, get themselves lowered into it on ropes, scratch their knees, get hauled up again, capture air in test tubes, make drawings, write books, and argue, instead of saying quite simply, "This volcano has stopped smoking, it must be extinct." If one really comes to think of it, the experts have never really been able to explain how volcanoes work anyway. The mystery of Mirepoix prison gave the grown-ups a splendid opportunity of getting excited. Journalists and press photographers arrived first on the scene because it's their professional duty, and immediately took all the rooms in the ambassador's hotel, which was the only one in the town. Then experts, the kind called botanists, arrived from all over the place, by train, air, taxi, and a few on bicycles even. Botanists are people who busy themselves cutting up flowers, giving them unpronounceable names, drying them between sheets of blotting paper and watching to see how long it takes them to lose their colors. It's a profession that requires a great deal of study. When a lot of botanists gather together, they call themselves a congress. So there was a congress of botanists at Mirepoix. There exists an infinite variety of flowers, but only 3 kinds of botanists: distinguished botanists, famous botanists, and eminent botanists. They tend to call each other professor or my dear colleague. Since the hotel was full of journalists who refused to vacate it, it became necessary to set up a camp for the botanists in the square. It was rather like a circus, but not such fun. Tistou spent a very anxious time. "If they discover that I did it," he confided to Moustache, "it's going to lead to a lot of trouble." "Don't you worry," replied the gardener. "Those fellows don't even know how to pick a nice bunch of flowers. They won't find out. I'll stake my mustache on it." And indeed, by the end of a week, which they spent examining every leaf and flower through magnifying glasses, the experts had gotten no further. They had to admit that the flowers about the prison were like any other flowers. The only odd thing about them was that they had grown in a single night. So the experts began to argue among themselves, to accuse each other of ignorance, telling lies, and creating mysteries, and now their camp really was rather like a circus. But congresses must end with a report. Eventually the botanists produced one, but it was full of Latin words, so that no one should be able to understand it. They talked of peculiar atmospheric conditions, of little birds that had dropped the seeds, and of the quite exceptional fertility of the prison walls, due to certain habits of the Mirepoix dogs. Then they went off to another part of the country where a stoneless cherry had been recently discovered, and Tistou felt safe again. "But what about the prisoners? I'm sure you want to know what they thought about it all." Well, the excitement and astonishment of the botanists paled beside what the prisoners felt. The honeysuckle growing in the keyholes prevented the doors being shut. But since the prisoners were no longer aware of the bars at the windows of their cells, nor of the barbed wire and spikes on the walls, they forgot their longing to escape. Even the most surly forgot to swear, so delighted were they with the flowers that surrounded them. Even the wickedest of them forgot to get angry and fight with each other. And those that were due to be released positively refused to go. They had acquired a taste for gardening. The Mirepoix prison was quoted as a model throughout the world. And no one was more delighted than Tistou, though his was a secret triumph. But secrets are very difficult things to keep. When you feel happy, you want to tell someone about it, shout about it even. And Moustache hadn't always got time to listen to Tistou's confidences. So Tistou, when he felt that he really had to tell someone about his secret or burst, used to go and talk to Gymnast. Gymnast's ears were covered with a pretty pale brown fur which was delightfully soft to the lips. Tistou enjoyed whispering into them. "Gymnast, listen carefully and don't tell anyone," said Tistou one morning when he happened to meet the pony in the field. Gymnast pricked an ear. "I have discovered a most extraordinary thing," whispered Tistou. "Flowers prevent evil things from happening."